Imagine a baby's first cry, but instead of echoing in a hospital room, it's muffled by the walls of a space station. Instead of feeling the gentle pull of gravity, the newborn floats weightlessly, its tiny limbs moving in slow, uncertain motions. The parents, pioneers of humanity's greatest adventure, look out of a reinforced viewport to see Earth, a distant blue jewel against the infinite darkness. This child, the first human born beyond our home planet, would be the start of something unprecedented, a new chapter in our species' evolution. But the question is, when will it happen? And are we truly ready for it? The idea of a space-born human isn't just a dream. It's a necessity if humanity ever hopes to become an interplanetary species. Every civilization in history has expanded beyond its birthplace, but this time, we're not just crossing oceans or mountains. We're leaving the very world that shaped us. And if we're serious about colonizing space, we'll eventually face the most fundamental challenge of all: reproduction. Many believe the first human birth in space could happen within our lifetime. SpaceX's Starship is already being tested for long-duration missions. NASA's Artemis program aims to establish a permanent lunar base, and discussions about Mars settlements are more serious than ever. Private organizations like the Mars Society predict that a self-sustaining colony on the Red Planet could emerge in the coming decades. If these efforts succeed, it's only a matter of time before humans start families beyond Earth. But here's the problem: space is not designed for life. The very conditions that make space so hostile to humans could pose serious risks for pregnancy, childbirth, and even the long-term health of a space-born child. One of the biggest concerns? Gravity, or rather the lack of it. Here on Earth, our entire reproductive process, from conception to fetal development, has evolved under the constant pull of gravity. In microgravity, things work differently. Studies on mammalian reproduction in space are limited, but the results so far are concerning. In the 1990s, Japanese scientists sent mouse embryos to space to see if they could develop normally. The embryos fertilized, but their growth was disrupted. Some failed to divide properly, while others developed abnormally. More recent studies on frog eggs and plants have shown similar complications: cell division, DNA replication, and even basic biological processes seem to be affected by microgravity. And that's just the first step. Even if fertilization happens, how would pregnancy progress? Without gravity, the normal positioning of organs, blood flow, and even the mother's ability to push during childbirth could be altered. Some scientists believe microgravity could make pregnancy extremely difficult, even dangerous. Others speculate that a baby born in space would develop differently, perhaps with elongated limbs, weaker bones, or an altered sense of balance, since their body would never have known Earth's gravity. Would such a child even be able to survive on Earth if they ever returned? Or would they be, in a very real sense, an entirely new kind of human? These questions go beyond science. There's an ethical dimension too. If a child were to be born in space, what rights would they have? Would they be considered an Earth citizen or something else? The Outer Space Treaty, signed by major world powers, states that no nation can claim sovereignty over space. But if humans start being born beyond Earth, we may need an entirely new way of thinking about citizenship, nationality, and identity. Every great journey starts with a few brave explorers. Right now, Cosmic Whispers is just beginning, and your support means everything. If you enjoy unraveling the mysteries of the universe, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us grow this community together. But let's get back to our question. If all these challenges exist, when will we actually see the first space-born human? Could it happen in a private space station, a lunar base, or even a future Mars colony? And most importantly, how will it change the very definition of what it means to be human? Let's dive deeper into the science, the risks, and the incredible possibilities of humanity's first true extraterrestrial child. Imagine a future where a spacecraft orbits Mars, a temporary home for humanity's first true pioneers. On board, a woman floats weightlessly, experiencing something no human has ever gone through: pregnancy in space. Her child, growing in a world with no gravity, no natural atmosphere, and no connection to the planet where every human in history has been born. Scientists and doctors monitor every stage of development, analyzing how microgravity affects the fetus, how space radiation influences DNA, and whether this child, humanity's first extraterrestrial, will even survive the journey into life. But let's step back for a moment. What do we actually know about reproduction in space? While no human has yet conceived or given birth beyond Earth, scientists have conducted experiments on animal reproduction in microgravity. The results? Confusing and concerning. In the 1970s, Soviet scientists sent pregnant rats into orbit. When they returned, their offspring showed unusual developmental changes, differences in balance, inner ear structure, and muscle function. In the 1990s, Japanese researchers attempted to fertilize mouse embryos in space. While some managed to develop into early-stage embryos, many failed to divide properly, leading to mutations. Frogs, fish, and even insects have also been studied in microgravity, revealing irregular cell division, disrupted embryonic growth, and in some cases, total failure to develop. The biggest problem? Gravity, or rather, the absence of it. On Earth, gravity plays a fundamental role in embryonic development. Cells rely on mechanical forces to orient themselves, organs form under the pressure of a consistent gravitational pull, and even our bones and muscles strengthen in response to weight-bearing forces. In space, none of that happens naturally. If a fetus developed in microgravity, it might face severe physiological challenges. Would its bones be too weak to support its body? Would its organs position themselves correctly? Would its nervous system adapt to weightlessness in ways that make life on Earth impossible? Then there's childbirth itself. On Earth, a mother's body is built to deliver a baby under the force of gravity. The contractions, the movement of the baby through the birth canal, even the way fluids behave during labor, all of it depends on gravity. In microgravity, those processes could be drastically altered. Doctors might need to develop entirely new methods of delivery, perhaps even using artificial gravity environments to simulate Earth-like conditions during childbirth. And if a child is successfully born in space, what comes next? Would they ever be able to return to Earth? Scientists speculate that a person born in microgravity might struggle to adapt to Earth's gravity. Their heart, bones, and muscles could be weaker. Their sense of balance and coordination could be completely different. They might even experience extreme difficulty standing or walking. Would this mean that the first human born in space could never truly call Earth their home? This also raises a profound question. Would a spaceborn child still be human in the way we understand it? Evolution works over thousands, even millions of years, but space might accelerate changes in unexpected ways. If humans begin reproducing in space, would we see the emergence of a new kind of human species, one adapted to microgravity, resistant to space radiation, and physically distinct from their Earth-born ancestors? For now, the idea of a spaceborn human remains theoretical. No space agency has officially proposed human reproduction experiments in orbit, and ethical concerns make it a controversial topic. Some experts argue that before we attempt space births, we must first master artificial gravity, develop radiation shielding, and ensure that children born beyond Earth have the same opportunities for survival and well-being as those on our home planet. But private companies may not wait for these solutions. As space tourism expands, as settlements on the Moon and Mars begin to form, the first space pregnancy may happen sooner than we expect, perhaps even by accident. So, if we are on the edge of this possibility, how would society react? Would the first child born in space be seen as a miracle or a scientific experiment? And what laws would govern this new frontier of human life? Let's explore the political, ethical, and legal implications of humanity's first space-born citizen. Imagine the moment, a historic announcement that shakes the world. A child has been born beyond Earth, humanity's first true extraterrestrial. News agencies scramble to cover the story. Governments issue statements, and social media explodes with debates. Some hail it as the dawn of a new era, the beginning of a multi-planetary civilization. Others fear the unknown, questioning the ethics, legality, and long-term consequences of such a birth. But beyond the headlines, one question looms larger than all the rest. What does it truly mean to be born in space? Let's start with the legal question. Who would this child belong to? Right now, international space law is clear. No nation can claim sovereignty over space. The Outer Space Treaty, signed in 1967, prevents any country from owning the Moon, Mars, or any celestial body. But what about a person? On Earth, citizenship is usually determined by birthplace, jus soli, or parentage, jus sanguinis. If a baby is born on the International Space Station, would they be considered a citizen of Earth, of a specific country? Or would we need entirely new laws to define the rights of space-born humans? Consider the case of astronauts today. When they travel to space, they remain citizens of their home country, governed by agreements between spacefaring nations. But if space colonies become independent in the future, what then? Would a child born on a Mars settlement be considered a Martian? If they've never lived on Earth, never experienced its gravity or culture, would they even identify as an Earthling? The first space-born human might force us to rethink not only our legal systems, but our entire concept of national identity. And then, there's the ethical dilemma. Should we even allow a human to be born in space under current conditions? Space is a harsh, unpredictable environment. Radiation exposure is significantly higher than on Earth, increasing the risk of genetic mutations, birth defects, and long-term health issues. Some scientists argue that attempting a space birth now would be irresponsible, a dangerous experiment on a helpless human life. Others see it differently. They argue that if humanity is to expand beyond Earth, we must take risks. That every great frontier, whether the discovery of new continents or the first steps on the Moon, require daring pioneers. Would the first space-born child be a victim of reckless ambition, or the first citizen of a new world? And what about culture? A child born in space would grow up with no experience of rain, wind, or open skies. They wouldn't know the feeling of standing on solid ground, of running through grass, of looking up to see the sun without the barrier of a space station window. Their understanding of home would be vastly different from ours. How would that shape their psychology, their sense of belonging? Would they feel connected to humanity, or would they see themselves as something other? This leads us to one of the most mind-bending possibilities. If we continue to have children in space, and if those children have children of their own, how long before they become a new kind of human? Evolution doesn't happen overnight, but when life enters a radically different environment, natural selection takes hold. A space-born population might develop stronger resistance to radiation, different bone structures, or even unique sensory adaptations to microgravity. Could it be that, centuries from now, our descendants on Mars or deep space habitats will no longer be fully human as we define it today? Science fiction has long explored this idea, the emergence of a new branch of humanity, no longer bound to Earth. Some imagine these future humans as biologically distinct, physically altered by generations in space. Others predict a cultural split, with space-born humans developing their own languages, beliefs, and ways of thinking, separate from their earthly origins. Could the birth of the first space-born child be the first step toward this future? Right now, all of this remains speculation. No government has openly discussed human reproduction in space, and ethical concerns make it unlikely that official missions will include childbirth anytime soon. But private space companies may not wait for permission. If a billionaire funds the first private space colony, if settlers on Mars begin forming families, then the first space birth could happen sooner than we think. Perhaps not in the next decade, but certainly within this century. And when it does, we'll be faced with the ultimate question. Will we embrace these new humans as part of our species, or will they mark the beginning of something entirely different? Now, let's step back and reflect on everything we've explored. What is the true significance of a space-born human, and what does it mean for the future of our species? The moment will be unlike anything humanity has ever experienced. The first human born beyond Earth, a child whose very existence redefines what it means to be human. Scientists will study their physiology, searching for signs of adaptation to space. Legal experts will debate their citizenship. Philosophers will argue over their identity. And the rest of us? We will watch in awe and uncertainty as a new chapter in human history begins. But what does this truly mean for our future? Will this first spaceborne human be an outlier, a rare scientific anomaly, or will they be the first of many, the beginning of a civilization that no longer calls Earth home? If we look at history, one thing becomes clear. Wherever humans go, we build. We explore, we settle, we grow. When the first humans crossed continents, they adapted to new environments, shaping their bodies, cultures, and ways of life to fit their surroundings. Space is no different. If we continue expanding into the cosmos, reproduction is inevitable. At first, spaceborne children might be rare, conceived under controlled conditions, monitored by teams of doctors and scientists. But in time, as space, habitats improve. As artificial gravity and radiation shielding become more advanced, births beyond Earth could become commonplace. Imagine a future where entire generations grow up in orbiting space stations, on the Moon or on Mars. A future where children learn to walk in low gravity, where playgrounds are pressurized domes filled with artificial sunlight. A future where people are no longer defined by Earth, but by the stars above. How long before spaceborne humans develop their own distinct identity? How long before they stop seeing themselves as Earthlings and instead as something new, Martians, Lunarians, or perhaps something beyond even those names? And if this future unfolds, what happens to us? Will Earth remain the heart of human civilization, or will it become the old world, a distant home remembered but rarely visited? Will future generations look down at our planet with nostalgia, or with detachment, seeing it as a place from another era? Beautiful, yes, but no longer their home. These questions don't have answers. Not yet. But one thing is certain. The birth of the first spaceborne human will be a turning point. It will force us to confront not just scientific and ethical dilemmas, but the very nature of our species. Are we bound to Earth forever, or are we destined to evolve into something greater? We may not know when this moment will happen, but when it does, it will be a defining event in human history. It will mark the beginning of a future where we are no longer confined to one planet, but are truly children of the universe. What do you think? Will the first spaceborne human be a pioneer of a new civilization, or a symbol of reckless ambition? Would you ever want to live in space, or even raise a family beyond Earth? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the future of humanity, don't forget to like this video and share it with others who love exploring the unknown. Your engagement helps us grow, and together we can keep unraveling the mysteries of the universe. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars